Swordsman, sharpness. Young Xiao Fan, betrayed by his fiancée Ae, withdrew his martial soul and became a useless person. He accidentally obtained the heavenly swallowing tower left by his mother, awakened his divine sword martial soul, and embarked on a path of unparalleled swordsmanship. Swallowing billions of divine swords across the world, condensing the immortal sword body, one person, one sword, breaking through the heavens, suppressing all enemies in the world. Heaven sword immortal 30 million, even if you see me, you must bow your brows. Chapter 1. Swallowed Martial Soul. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Yenguo, Xuanwu College. Brother Xiao Fan, if I want to be your woman, you should take me. Yun Feishue's eyes flowed with tenderness, as she slowly untied her clothes, revealing large patches of snow-white skin that made her blood boil. Feishue, what are you doing? Xiao Fan felt something was wrong and took 2 steps back. Today, Yun Feishue invited him to come and discuss something important. He didn't expect that as soon as he entered the room, Yun Feishue pounced on him. Brother Xiao Fan, aren't I pretty? Yun Feishue was shy and charming, slowly approaching Xiao Fan, emitting a refreshing virgin fragrance. Feishue, don't do this. Xiao Fan gave a bitter smile. Boom. At this moment, a lightning bolt flashed across the sky, causing a thunderous sound, and the door of the room shattered with a loud bang. A young man dressed in a python robe and with a radiant face, burst in with 2 elderly men in black robes. Xiao Fan, you beast, how dare you ignore the rules of the academy and engage in such promiscuous behavior within the academy? How audacious. The young man in the python robe had cold eyes and took a step, unleashing a powerful aura. His spiritual energy gushed out of his body and he punched Xiao Fan directly. Puff. Xiao Fan was punched and flew out, hitting the wall behind him. Suddenly, he spewed out a mouthful of blood, and his eyes were filled with a look of shock and anger. You. Xia Yang. The young man in the python robe in front of me is the 3rd prince of Yen, Xia Yang. Xia Yang is also a disciple of Xuanwu Academy, and is a highly esteemed true disciple. Senior Xia Yang, save me. Xiao Fan. He drugged me with the intention of infringing on me. If it weren't for you coming in time, he would have succeeded. Yun Feishue quickly ran over and hid behind Xia Yang. Her clothes were disheveled, her face was stained with tears, and her eyes were filled with anger and grievance. Don't worry, Feishue junior sister. With me around, no one can harm you. Xia Yang patted Yun Feishue's shoulder, then turned around and looked at Xiao Fan in front of her with a sneer, saying, Xiao Fan, you're not as good as a beast. How dare you have ulterior motives towards Feishue junior sister? As a true disciple, I have the right to punish you. On behalf of Xuanwu Academy, I will abolish your cultivation and expel you from Xuanwu Academy. Can you be convinced? Xia Yang's gaze was pressing, and he spoke sternly. Xiao Fan looked at Xia Yang and Yun Feishue in front of him, and suddenly understood. His eyes were filled with raging anger, saying, Xia Yang and Yun Feishue, how dare you work together to frame me? Why? Feishue, we have an engagement, and I have given you a large amount of cultivation resources to help you cultivate. Why do you collude with outsiders to falsely accuse me? Xiao Fan stared at Yun Feishue and roared softly, his eyes turning red. Oh. It seems that this kid is not stupid. Xia Yang sneered, his eyes full of playfulness. The panic in Yun Feishue's eyes dissipated, becoming extremely cold and proud. She looked down at Xiao Fan and said, why? Of course, it's because I don't like you, so you want to be my husband too. You're such a toad who wants to eat swan meat. Don't look up to me. Ha ha ha. Yun Feishue, if you don't look up to me, just terminate the engagement. I, Xiao Fan, am not someone who stubbornly clings to me. Why frame me? Xiao Fan was extremely angry and smiled, with a sorrowful expression in his eyes. Why? Of course it's because of your martial soul. Yun Feishue's gaze was indifferent, and there was a hint of mockery on the corner of her mouth. You should know that both you and I have awakened 9th-level martial souls, but you useless person deserve to have 9th-level martial souls. I have obtained a secret technique. As long as I find someone born on the same year, month, and day, I can devour their martial soul and advance my martial soul. At that time, my swallowing python martial soul can become a heavenly level martial soul and become a holy disciple directly. Yun Feishue's gaze was incredibly hot. Swallow my martial soul. Xiao Fan was trembling all over, incredulous. I see. Yun Feishue possesses a 9th-level martial soul and swallows the sky python. Xiao Fan possesses a 9th-level martial soul, the blazing sun sword. Yun Feishue actually wanted to devour Xiao Fan's martial soul and elevate her martial soul to a heavenly level. It turns out that this is her true goal. Xiao Fan comes from the demon-suppressing prince's mansion and is the crown prince of the demon-suppressing prince. Yun Feishue is the legitimate daughter of the Yun family. When the Yun family suffered a disaster, they were able to survive with the help of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. Xiao Fan and Yun Feishue were born on the same day. It was Yun Feishue's grandfather who begged the demon-suppressing prince's mansion, and the two families finally settled on a child marriage. Later, Xiao Fan and Yun Feishue both awakened their 9th-level martial soul, possessing dazzling martial arts talents. They were childhood sweethearts and had an excellent relationship, earning them the nickname of a talented and beautiful couple, a perfect match made in heaven and earth. After entering Xuanwu Academy, Xiao Fan constantly gave various cultivation resources brought by the demon-suppressing prince's mansion to Yun Feishue to help her cultivate. Xiao Fan couldn't believe that Yun Feishue would collude with Xiaoyang to frame him, with the aim of devouring his martial soul. What a heart-wrenching woman. Xiaoyang, Yun Feishue, you two dog men and women, I won't let you go. Xiao Fan's eyes were filled with flames, and his hatred reached its peak in his heart. The anger of the weak is the most incompetent expression. Xiao Fan, don't worry, I won't kill you. I will devour your martial soul, and you will just be a useless person. Be an ordinary person and treat it as my last mercy to you. Yun Feishue stared at Xiao Fan from a high position and said with an extremely cold gaze. Click. A huge lightning bolt pierced through the pitch-black night sky, pouring rain and raging winds. The lightning illuminated Yun Feishue's cold and cruel eyes, and also made Xiao Fan's heart sink to the bottom of the valley. Hands on. Xiaoyang sneered and suddenly waved his hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two old men in black robes behind him, like ghosts, moved directly toward Xiao Fan. Their withered arms clasped around his arm, and the majestic spiritual energy destroyed Xiao Fan's entire meridians as if it were destroying everything. Ah! Xiao Fan let out a mournful roar in his mouth. Buzz! Yun Feishue's gaze was indifferent, and with a wave of her hand, an ancient altar flew out of her Qingyu bag. It was 3 feet high, covered in blood, and depicted with strange patterns, very eerie. Xiao Fan was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, placed on the altar. Puff! Yun Feishue walked over and the dagger in her hand pierced through Xiao Fan's lower abdomen, causing blood to gush out and flow towards the blood-stained patterns on the altar. The blood-red altar seemed to be stirred up, emitting a demonic light that enveloped Xiao Fan's entire body. A severe pain came from Xiao Fan's eyebrows, and in a faint moment, his soul seemed to be pulled out by a great force. A small sword, as illusory as flames, emerged. That's exactly Xiao Fan's martial soul, the Liang sword. Roar! A terrifying low roar came from Yun Feishue's body, and blood filled her eyebrows. In a faint moment, a black python emerged and swallowed toward Xiao Fan's martial soul. Yun Feishue, you despicable person, you must die hard. If you give me another chance, I will make you pay the price. Xiao Fan's delicate face twisted due to intense pain and overwhelming hatred, and his heart roared wildly. But as his martial soul was devoured by the black python, his consciousness fell into endless darkness. What Xiao Fan didn't know was that as his blood soaked the entire altar, some of it also blended into the jade pendant around his waist. Inside the jade pendant, there was a faint and imperceptible light that penetrated into Xiao Fan's body. Click. Just as Xiao Fan's consciousness was about to sink into endless darkness, the darkness before him seemed to be torn apart by the blazing light. A stunning sight appeared in front of Xiao Fan. That's... Xiao Fan's heart trembled greatly. A huge chaotic pagoda, like a heavenly mountain that runs through heaven and earth, appears in the endless dark void. The blazing divine radiance shines on the heavens, forever lasting. That chaotic pagoda, with its vicissitudes and antiquity, stretches for billions of miles, spanning a vast world. Above the tower, black bloodstains filled the air. The ancient gods and demons, as well as the various heavenly immortals who stood on top of their heads and stepped on the starry sky, were suppressed by the pagoda and turned into a sea of corpses and blood. The pagoda is like a pillar that connects to the heavens, piercing through the 9 layers of heaven, suppressing endless gods and demons, billions of creatures, vast, eternal and immortal. The scene before him made Xiao Fan's scalp tingle and his whole body tremble. The Chaos Pagoda runs through the infinite world, suppressing the gods and demons of the heavens. What a great existence can wield this treasure! Is this my illusion after death? Xiao Fan's heart trembled. Boom! At this moment, Xiao Fan felt a terrifying force pulling his divine soul towards the chaotic pagoda, as if it was about to be devoured directly by the pagoda. That kind of power makes it difficult for Xiao Fan to resist. At the same time, a sound like a grand bell and a great LV sounded in Xiao Fan's ear, as if it came from an endless ancient period. This tower swallows the heavens, the earth, and all the heavenly gods and demons. Destroy the Tao, destroy the Dharma, and destroy endless beings. Chapter 2. Rebirth of Martial Soul, Swallowing the Heavenly God Tower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom! Xiao Fan's consciousness instantly rushed into the chaotic pagoda and appeared on the first floor of the pagoda. This is an ancient space, shining brightly in front of us. A 3-inch small sword, completely black like ink, floats in mid-air. Is this the interior of that pagoda? Xiao Fan was slightly stunned. He looked towards the 3-inch small sword and vaguely noticed that there seemed to be golden text on the body of the sword, which was very mysterious. Boom! At this moment, the 3-inch sword hummed and trembled, instantly shooting toward Xiao Fan. The terrifying sword intent seemed to completely annihilate Xiao Fan's consciousness. Xiao Fan's hair stood on end and his heart was filled with despair. However, after a moment, he realized that he had not been harmed and that his 3-inch sword had disappeared directly from his body. Buzz! At this moment, Xiao Fan felt his eyebrows bulging and an irresistible force pulling his consciousness, instantly entering a strange space. Is this my martial soul space? Xiao Fan was slightly taken aback. The martial soul space, located in the mud ball palace at the center of the eyebrows, is a place for cultivating martial souls. Xiao Fan's martial soul has been devoured by Yunfei, and theoretically, his martial soul space should also collapse. But the scene before him left Xiao Fan stunned. A black divine sword floats in his martial soul space, emitting an ancient and vast aura. Its sharpness is unparalleled, as if it can penetrate everything, eternal and immortal. It's that 3-inch small sword. These 3-inch swords have become my martial soul. Xiao Fan was trembling all over, feeling the connection of blood vessels, like the command of an arm. His eyes were full of disbelief. Xiao Fan has regained his martial soul. Although he is still a level 9 martial soul, he is far more powerful than the Blazing Sun Sword martial soul. Boom! At this moment, the divine sword and martial soul in the martial god space trembled slightly, and a blazing light burst forth. A golden scripture, like a torrent, surged in and directly poured into Xiao Fan's divine soul. Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra. Swallowing the Heavenly Sword Sutra, using oneself as a sword, devouring billions of divine swords from the heavens, condensing the divine body of swallowing the heavenly sword. I wonder what a terrifying technique this is. Xiao Fan was completely shocked, with an incredulous expression in his eyes. That is an ancient martial art, containing the aura of ancient and desolate, mysterious and powerful. Divided into two parts. In the physical part, Xiao Fan's physical body needs to absorb the power of countless powerful divine swords, forge his physical body, and ultimately condense into an indestructible sword body. After achieving his ultimate goal, he can use his body as a sword to cut through heaven and earth, as well as eliminate immortals and demons with one sword. In the Divine Soul chapter, Xiao Fan's divine sword martial soul can absorb and devour the martial souls of others, constantly evolve, and ultimately condense into the swallowing heaven sword soul. After achieving great success, with one thought of the mortal world shedding blood and one thought of opening up the heavens and earth will perish but I will not perish, and all beings will perish but I will never perish. If he practices according to this cultivation method, although his divine sword martial soul is only a 9th level martial soul now, can it evolve into a heavenly level martial soul, a holy level martial soul, or even the legendary immortal level martial soul in the future? With the divine sword soul and swallowing heaven sword sutra, my cultivation will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. In no time, I will be able to enter the Xuanwu Academy, wielding swords like Xia Yang and Yunfei, a pair of dog men and women. Xiao Fan thought to himself, with a hint of determination in his eyes. There are 4 major realms in martial arts cultivation. Kai Qiao, Ling Hai, Dao Ji, Hua Ling. The enlightenment state is to activate spiritual energy, open up the 9 major acupoints and orifices in the body, and nourish the body. With each opening of the acupoints and orifices, the power of the body can skyrocket. The 9 orifices are fully open, and the spiritual energy penetrates the whole body. It can open steels, crack stones, tear tigers and leopards with its hands, and possess 10,000 kilograms of divine power. And the Ling Hai realm is to bring in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, connect the Dantian, open up the Ling Hai, cultivate one's own spiritual energy, transform oneself, and increase one's strength. Now that I have opened my 9 orifices, I will only wait for my injury to heal before I can activate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, open up the spiritual sea, and break through to the spiritual sea realm. Xiao Fan thought to himself. After obtaining the inheritance of the Heaven-Swallowing Sword Sutra, Xiao Fan also learned about this pagoda, named the Heaven-Swallowing God Pagoda, which is an unparalleled treasure with a total of 9 owners. Now, Xiao Fan is considered the 10th master. The Heaven-Swallowing God Pagoda has a total of 9 floors, each of which contains the supreme inheritance, powerful treasures, and anti-heaven divine weapons left by the previous 9 masters. The Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra obtained by Xiao Fan is the inheritance of an supreme existence named Swallowing Heaven Immortal King. Xiao Fan's consciousness discovered that in the first layer, there was a stone step leading to the second layer, and 2 ancient stone doors were tightly closed. After Xiao Fan walked up, he wanted to push the stone gate open, but found that it remained motionless. It seems that with my current cultivation level, I am still unable to open the second layer of the Heaven-Swallowing God Tower. If I could completely control the Heaven-Swallowing God Tower and obtain all the creations of it, how strong would I be? Xiao Fan thought to himself, filled with anticipation. Originally, he had lost any hope, but he never expected to obtain the precious treasure of the Heavenly Swallowing God Tower, which reignited his hope. Where does this Heavenly Swallowing Tower come from? Xiao Fan was puzzled in his heart. For some reason, the Heavenly Swallowing Tower suddenly appeared in his consciousness. At this moment, he suddenly saw the complete picture of the Swallowing Heaven God Tower. That is a golden pagoda filled with chaotic light, with a total of 9 layers, emitting immortal and mysterious light, as if able to suppress the heavens and all realms. Is this the golden tower shadow in my jade pendant? Xiao Fan widened his eyes. Xiao Fan has a jade pendant left by his mother, which is quite peculiar because there are occasional golden tower shadows flashing within the jade pendant. Is it the jade pendant left by my mother that allowed me to obtain the heavenly swallowing god tower? Xiao Fan thought to himself. Regarding the matter of his mother, his father has always been vague and has never told Xiao Fan, which has caused Xiao Fan to have many doubts about his mother who disappeared from a young age. It seems that only by finding the father can we solve the problem. Buzz. At this moment, the heavenly swallowing tower trembled slightly, and Xiao Fan's consciousness left the tower and returned to his body. Squeak. The door was pushed open and a beautiful figure walked in. That is a girl with picturesque features, wearing a long blue dress, slender and straight legs, skin like jade, and black hair like a waterfall. The subtle sunlight fell on her, graceful, with a faint sense of alienation, emitting a transcendent and extraordinary temperament. Especially her golden pupils add a touch of majesty and extraordinary temperament, making people dare not stare at her. Xiao Fan, are you awake? The girl smiled indifferently, her cold gaze becoming a bit softer. The young girl was very young, about the same age as Xiao Fan, but she was born with an almost perfect appearance and a sacred temperament of not being angry or arrogant, which made her subconsciously feel ashamed and obscene. Chapter 3. Xiao Qingyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Fan looked at the beautiful and charming girl in front of him, and a hint of a smile appeared on her delicate face, saying, "It's Sister Qingyu." The girl's name is Xiao Qingyu. She grew up in the Xiao family from a young age, but her identity is mysterious and special. Even Xiao Fan's father, the contemporary demon-suppressing King Xiao Ling, is quite polite to Xiao Qingyu. However, Xiao Qingyu has a very indifferent temperament. Although he is very beautiful, in the entire Xiao family, besides having a good relationship with Xiao Fan, he always maintains some distance from others. Although Xiao Fan is known as the real dragon of the Xiao family, he knows that there is also a monster in the Xiao family. That's Xiao Qingyu. After every time Xiao Fan improved his cultivation, he struggled in front of Xiao Qingyu, and the ultimate result was being beaten by Xiao Qingyu. Even Xiao Fan didn't know how strong Xiao Qingyu was. After a year of absence, Xiao Qingyu's appearance became even more beautiful, and Xiao Fan's kindness in his heart exceeded his fear of Xiao Qingyu. Did you make a big mistake at Xuanwu Academy because you usually enjoy showing off? Xiao Qingyu let out a light sigh. A hint of heartache flashed through her eyes. I never expected that Yunfeishue and Xia Yang would unite to frame me. Forget it, I will handle this matter myself. Sister Qingyu, how long have I been sleeping? Xiao Fan gave a bitter smile. You've been sleeping for 10 days already. Xiao Qingyu said lightly. 10 days, has it been so long? What happened in these 10 days? Xiao Fan was slightly taken aback and quickly asked. He was devoured by Yunfeishue's martial soul, and although he did not die, he was sent back to the Demon King's mansion in the northern wilderness town. However, he probably poured dirty water on Xiao Fan's body. 10 days ago, it was the people from Xuanwu Academy who brought you back. They said you intended to poison Yunfeishue, but were punished by heaven, your martial soul was shattered, and you were expelled from Xuanwu Academy. Can you tell me what happened? Xiao Qingyu said slowly, with a hint of sharpness flashing through his beautiful eyes. Infused Yunfeishue with medicine, but was punished by heaven, his martial soul was shattered, and he was expelled from Xuanwu Academy. Ha ha ha. Yunfeishue, you are really cruel. I'm afraid I have become a laughing stock now, right? Xiao Fan laughed heartily, his gaze icy and full of self-deprecation. He told Xiao Qingyu about what happened in Xuanwu Academy. I see. The clouds and snow are really snake and scorpion-like. Xiao Qingyu's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and a hint of anger appeared in his cold eyes. Yunfeishue not only devoured Xiao Fan's martial soul, but also tarnished his reputation. Nowadays, Xiao Fan has not only become a laughingstock. After the news spread, the world was in a state of uproar, and the entire Beihuang city was shaken. Nowadays, everyone in Beihuang city is openly and secretly mocking Xiao Fan, despicable, self-inflicted, and deserving of heavenly punishment. Even so, there are many members of the Xiao family who are very dissatisfied with Xiao Fan, believing that Xiao Fan has brought shame to the entire Xiao family, and that the demon suppression prince's mansion has become a laughingstock, making it difficult to look up in the northern wilderness city. Some even propose to abolish Xiao Fan's position as the crown prince. Sister Qingyu, don't worry, I'm fine. Xiao Fan noticed Xiao Qingyu's worried gaze and smiled calmly. If it had been before, he might have been angry, desperate, painful, and unwilling, but now he has a more powerful divine sword martial soul, and has also obtained an earth-shattering supreme skill called the Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra. His path to martial arts has not been cut off. Xiao Fan's heart was filled with hope, hatred, and anger, which instead became his driving force. I'm not worried about you. Since you're awake, take the medicine yourself. Xiao Qingyu said angrily and then put down a jade bottle, which contained a Hunyuan ancient and fragrant healing pill. It's still Miss Qingyu who treats me well. Xiao Fan smiled and picked up the pill directly, swallowing it into his stomach. I don't know what kind of elixir it was, but when it entered the abdomen, it immediately turned into a warm current, rushing towards Xiao Fan's limbs and bones, making his once decaying qi and blood become full. What kind of spiritual pill is this? The effect is so good. Xiao Fan couldn't help but marvel in his heart. At this moment, a figure walked quickly in. That was a sturdy man wearing black clothes and carrying a precious sword at his waist, with a hint of panic in his eyes. When he saw Xiao Fan, he immediately showed an extremely surprised expression. Crown Prince, you have finally woken up. The strong man in black quickly bowed and said. Deng Hu. What happened? Xiao Fan was slightly taken aback, frowned, and asked. Crown Prince, something's wrong. The elder summoned a meeting of elders, it seems. It seems to have something to do with you. Deng Hu whispered anxiously. Is it related to me? Are you really going to dismiss me, the Crown Prince? Xiao Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness, revealing a cold smile. He stood up and walked towards the Elder Hall with Deng Hu. The Elder's Hall is located in the deep part of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion and is an important gathering place for the Xiao family. Normally, only the Xiao family leader and other elders can enter it. Father Wang's old injury has recurred, and he has not left the seclusion yet. Elder Xiao Zhen, is it true that he wants to dismiss me, the Crown Prince, by convening a council of elders at this time? Xiao Fan walked forward, pondering in his heart. In his mind, the face of the elder Xiao Zhen came to mind. He was a skinny old man with a rigid expression and a serious smile, holding a high position of power and overseeing the affairs of the Xiao family on a daily basis. Xiao Fan's father, Xiao Ling, although the demon-suppressing king and the head of the Xiao family, often had to close down due to his old injuries, so Xiao Zhen was able to monopolize power. Moreover, Xiao Fan also knew that Xiao Lin, the grandson of Xiao Zhen, had awakened the 8th-level martial soul snow-drinking blade, making him a genius second only to Xiao Fan in the entire Xiao family. Now that Xiao Fan's martial soul has been deposed and the path of martial arts has been cut off, can the elder still bear it? See the Crown Prince. Along the way, people kept bowing to Xiao Fan. Those were all disciples of the Xiao family, but their gaze towards Xiao Fan was filled with strange expressions. After all, Xiao Fan's reputation has been ruined now. Intending to invade Yunfei Xue, he was expelled from Xuanwu Academy, his cultivation was abolished, his martial soul was destroyed, and he completely became a useless person. This has also tarnished the reputation of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. In their eyes, Xiao Fan, who was usually unattainable and hailed as the true dragon of the Xiao family, is now knocked down to the mortal world and is likely to have no chance of turning over again. See the Crown Prince, I wonder if his injury has healed. At this moment, a young man dressed in a white robe with a handsome and elegant face also bowed to Xiao Fan, with a gentle smile on his lips. Xiao Jian. I'm fine. Xiao Fan nodded and recognized the young man in the white robe in front of him. He was the grandson of the second elder and could also be considered a genius of the Xiao family. He awakened the 7th level martial soul Qingfeng sword. He was in a hurry to go to the elder's hall, so he didn't talk to Xiao Jian. After nodding and gesturing, he stumbled by. As he watched Xiao Fan leave, a person beside Xiao Jian asked somewhat puzzled, "Brother Xiao Jian, why are you so polite to him?" Xiao Fan is not the real dragon of the Xiao family now, but the shame of the Xiao family. He is a collateral disciple of the Xiao family, and at this moment, he has a lot of disdain for Xiao Fan in his words. The other few people also nodded in agreement. Chapter 4. Council of Elders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The shame of the Xiao family. This is just a one-sided statement from the Yun family and the Xuanwu Academy. How could such a person as the Crown Prince do such a thing? Xiao Jian sneered, full of disdain. The Yun family will wrongly accuse Xiao Fan, but Xuanwu Academy won't do it, will it? It's the holy land of martial arts in our Yan country, the place that many people dream of. Someone asked in confusion. That's not necessarily true. I believe in the Crown Prince's character, let alone none of us who have not received the Crown Prince's favor. In the past, the Crown Prince not only guided us in our cultivation, but also generously provided us with many cultivation resources. I don't want to hear another word that slanders the Crown Prince. Xiao Jian said in a deep voice. Everyone lowered their heads in shame. Xiao Jian is right. Xiao Fan is the Crown Prince of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion, but he never shows any arrogance in his daily life. He is extremely easygoing towards others and often instructs them to cultivate martial arts, giving them a lot of cultivation resources. The real dragon of the Xiao family has won unanimous recognition from all over the Xiao family. Brother Xiao Jian, we were wrong. However, I heard that the elder held a meeting today and there is a high possibility that he will dismiss the Crown Prince and make Xiao Lin the Crown Prince. Someone whispered. Xiao Lin. He is far inferior to the Crown Prince. Xiao Jian sneered coldly. However, there was still a hint of concern between his eyebrows. With the current power of the Grand Elder, if he really insists on dismissing the Crown Prince, who can stop him? Once the Presbyterian Council forms a resolution, even if the tribal leader leaves the border, it may be difficult to prevent it. The Elders' Hall is solemn and majestic. Above is a plaque dedicated to the ancestors of the Xiao family, shrouded in fireworks, making every disciple of the Xiao family who steps into this place feel revered. The topmost theme is vacant. On both sides of the lower head sat 8 extraordinary figures, male and female, all of whom were elders of the Xiao family and martial arts experts who had established a foundation. The first chair on the left hand, sitting upright, was a slender old man with a dignified expression and a serious smile. It was the eldest elder of the Xiao family, Xiao Zhen. Behind Xiao Zhen stood a young man in a black robe with a cold and proud face, carrying a long sword and an extraordinary aura. It's the grandson of the elder, Xiao Lin. The other 7 elders, their eyes wandering around Xiao Zhen and Xiao Lin, with a hint of confusion, doubt, and anger, had some vague speculations about the content of today's Presbyterian assembly. At this moment, outside the elders' hall, Xiao Fan bathed in the brilliant sunrise and walked slowly into the elders' hall. Farewell to all the elders. Xiao Fan had a delicate face and a calm expression as he bowed. He looked at the elder Xiao Zhen, and at this moment, Xiao Zhen also looked at Xiao Fan with a hint of scrutiny in his eyes. The atmosphere in the elders' hall has become somewhat oppressive. Behind Xiao Zhen, Xiao Lin stared at Xiao Fan, his eyes full of war intent and eager to try. Just now, the Yun family sent someone to drop the engagement letter between Xiao Fan and Yun Feixue. Xiao Zhen glanced at Xiao Fan and slowly said. His words were like thunder, instantly causing everyone in the elders' hall to show an extremely angry expression. Divorce. The Yun family is simply deceiving others too much. If it weren't for my Xiao family sheltering the Yun family back then, the Yun family would have been extinct long ago. It was they who shamelessly wanted to marry Yun Feixue to the crown prince, but now they dare to withdraw their marriage. It's a great shame, it's simply a great shame. The Yun family is really damn, we can't agree. Even if it's a divorce, it should be my Xiao family's divorce. Many elders of the Xiao family suddenly became furious. It can be imagined that if this news were to spread, the entire demon-suppressing prince's mansion would become a laughingstock of the Yan kingdom. Behind the Yun family is the third prince Xia Yang. Moreover, I have received news that Yun Feixue has been favored by a strong member of the heavenly demon sect due to her possession of a heavenly-level martial soul. It is likely that joining the super sect is already a certainty. Next, the words of Elder Xiao Zhen echoed like thunder throughout the entire elders' hall. The 7 elders were all instantly shocked, their eyes filled with an extremely frightened expression, and their voices abruptly stopped. Is the background the third prince? More importantly, Yun Feixue has acquired a heavenly-level martial soul and has become a true disciple of the sect. This news, like a hurricane, shook everyone's heart and felt an uncontrollable sense of fear. The Yan royal family, the legendary heavenly demon sect, is far beyond the existence of the Yan royal family. No matter which one, it is not something that the Xiao family can compete against. Their anger now looks more like a joke. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the delicate and stubborn young man in the elders' hall, with a hint of compassion in his eyes. Because they all know where Yun Feixue's heavenly-level martial soul comes from. The statements of Yun Feixue and Xuanwu Academy can be concealed from others, but not from them. Sacrifice to Xiao Fan with blood, devour Xiao Fan's 9th-level martial soul with the blazing sun sword, and eventually become a heavenly-level martial soul. Xiao Fan, now tell me, what are you going to do? Xiao Zhen stood up and looked expressionlessly at the young man in front of him, with a strong momentum, pressing towards Xiao Fan. Me. Xiao Fan stood in the elders' hall and heard Xiao Zhen's voice, like that of a red bell and a big LV. He suddenly lifted his head, with a hint of sharpness in his eyes. I, Xiao Fan, swear in front of my ancestors that one day, I will repay the humiliation brought to me by Yun Feixue 10 times and 100 times, and make Yun Feixue and Xia Yang pay the price. Xiao Fan looked straight at Xiao Zhen, his gaze fixed, his words resounding, and his voice incredibly loud. How is the Yan royal family? What about the true lineage of the sect? One day, I, Xiao Fan, will stand upright in front of Yun Feixue, personally defeat her and bring back everything I have lost. Okay. The second elder smiled and said. He was genuinely happy for Xiao Fan from the bottom of his heart. Previously, he was afraid that Xiao Fan would be hit by this blow and would not recover. At this moment, seeing that Xiao Fan had not lost his confidence and was still full of fighting spirit, he felt extremely relieved in his heart. It's useless to speak harshly. Xia Yang can't hear it, nor can Yun Feixue. I hope you can be brave and improve, don't insult the demon-suppressing prince's mansion, insult the name of my Xiao family. Xiao Zhen said lightly. His expression was extremely majestic and expressionless, but there was a hint of admiration in his eyes that flashed away. Elders, I want to challenge Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan's martial soul has been destroyed, and the path of martial arts has been cut off. Only I can lead the Xiao family forward, so I feel that I am more qualified than him to become the crown prince of the Xiao family. At this moment, Xiao Lin suddenly spoke up. He looked straight at Xiao Fan, his eyes filled with a strong sense of war. Bold. The second elder suddenly changed color. Xiao Lin, there is no place for you to speak. How can you replace Xiao Fan's position? The clan leader has not yet left the pass, and no one is qualified to abolish Xiao Fan's position as the crown prince. The three elders also spoke angrily. Chapter 5. The entire Xiao family is your reliance. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Elders, it's not that I'm coveting the position of the crown prince, nor is it that I'm taking advantage of others' danger. Now, our Xiao family is in turmoil and facing internal and external difficulties. It's necessary for someone to continue leading the Xiao family. I think I'm more suitable than Xiao Fan. Xiao Lin said sincerely. Xiao Fan couldn't help but feel a movement in his heart. Xiao Lin's words just now did make him a bit angry, but he didn't seem to be hypocritical when he heard Xiao Lin's sincere language. Is Xiao Lin really for the Xiao family? At this moment, Xiao Lin continued, Elders, have you forgotten about the Yuan Huang duel? There are still 3 months left until the Yuan Huang duel. With Xiao Fan's current state, how can he participate in the Yuan Huang duel? The Crown Prince of Yuan has already opened up the Spirit Sea and stepped into the existence of the Spirit Sea realm. Upon hearing the 4 words, Yuan Huang duel, all the elders in the Elders' Hall couldn't help but change their faces. Yuan Huang duel. Yuan represents the king of Yuan, and Huang represents the demon-suppressing king. The first generation of the demon-suppressing king swept through the wilderness, slaughtered countless monsters, and assisted the founder of the great Yan kingdom. He was enfeoffed in the northern wilderness city and guarded the northern wilderness demon domain, with no hereditary succession. It has been passed down for 9 generations. Throughout history, the demon-suppressing kings have been loyal and dedicated, making great contributions to the Yan state. However, the current royal family of Dian is very suspicious of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion, both openly and secretly weakening its power. Not only did he support the Zhang family in the northern wilderness city, but he also secretly became enemies with the Xiao family. He also targeted the legitimate army of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion, the demon-suppressing army. The demon-suppressing army has a force of 100,000, which is not only the basis for the demon-suppressing prince's mansion to guard the northern wilderness demon domain, but also the confidence of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. If the demon-suppressing army is controlled by the royal family of Dian, if the royal family of Dian has no further concerns, they may immediately take action against the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. In order to protect the demon-suppressing army, the demon-suppressing prince's mansion and the royal family of Dian secretly competed and ultimately established the rule, which was the Yuan Huang duel. Yuan Huang is the younger brother of the current Yan emperor, with his fiefdom located in Yuanzhou city, not far from Beihuang city. Both parties agreed that the Yuan prince's mansion and the demon-suppressing prince's mansion would hold a Yuan Huang duel every 10 years, with young martial arts talents from both sides competing. The winner would lead the demon-suppressing army for 10 years. Now, the Yuan Huang duel has gone through 2 times, with each time the demon-suppressing prince's mansion narrowly won. There are still 3 months left until the once every 10 years Yuan Huang duel. And this time, it is said that the king of Yuan is determined to achieve it. The crown prince of the Yuan mansion, who also awakened the 9th level martial soul, is now a genius with all 9 orifices open and has opened up the Spirit Sea, breaking through to the realm of the Spirit Sea. And throughout the entire Demon Lord's mansion, the strongest young generation of the Xiao family, Xiao Fan and Xiao Lin, have only opened their 9 orifices and have not yet opened up the Spirit Sea. Originally, Xiao Fan had the hope of opening up the Spirit Sea and breaking through to the Spirit Sea realm to confront the Crown Prince Yuan, but now there is probably no hope left. Xiao Lin is several years older than Xiao Fan, and has been opening up the 9 orifices for over a year. If the resources of the Xiao family are concentrated, it is indeed enough for him to enter the Spirit Sea realm within 3 months, and there is still a possibility of fighting for it. I have recently felt an opportunity for breakthrough. When Purple Spirit Lake opens again next month, I will definitely be able to open up the Spirit Sea and enter the Spirit Sea realm. Therefore, for the sake of the Xiao family in the Yuan-Huang duel, I must challenge Xiao Fan. I am more qualified than him to become the crown prince of the Xiao family. Xiao Lin confidently said. His words left everyone silent. Even the second and third elders, who were most loyal to the demon-suppressing king, laughed bitterly and shook their heads in sighs. Although they were pleased that Xiao Fan did not give up on himself, it was a fact that his martial soul had been destroyed. He was afraid that he would never be able to open up the Spirit Sea and enter the Spirit Sea realm for the rest of his life. I accept your challenge. Xiao Lin, if you defeat me, what if I give you the throne of the crown prince? Xiao Fan glanced at Xiao Lin and calmly said. The second and third elders opened their mouths and wanted to say something, but in the end, they didn't say anything and shook their heads with a bitter smile. Even if they were unwilling, they could not say anything against it for the sake of the Xiao family and the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. After all, they knew better than anyone what it would mean if the Xiao family lost control of the demon-suppressing army. At that time, it may be the ultimate disaster for the entire Xiao family. No way. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Everyone turned their heads and saw a hint of astonishment, as they discovered that the speaker was actually Elder Xiaozhen. Why did Xiaozhen refuse? He convened a council of elders just to make his grandson the crown prince, right? Xiaozhen stood up, looked around the crowd, and finally his gaze fell on Xiao Fan. He slowly said, "You are the crown prince of demon suppression, my real dragon from the Xiao family. This will never change, even if your martial soul is destroyed. Today, in front of the ancestors, I am holding a meeting of elders to see if you have fallen from grace or abandoned yourself. As a result, I am very pleased that you are still full of fighting spirit and have not accepted your fate. If you don't disappoint the Xiao family, naturally the Xiao family won't disappoint you. The entire Xiao family is your reliance. So, Xiao Lin has no right to challenge you. No one can take away the throne of the crown prince." Xiaozhen's eyes showed a look of admiration, and a rare smile appeared on his dignified and rigid face. "Grandpa, Xiao Fan has already agreed to my challenge. Why do you refuse?" Xiao Lin was extremely anxious and quickly said. "Shut up." Xiaozhen let out a sudden roar, his eyes shining like lightning, which shook Xiao Lin. "You ask yourself, are you really challenging Xiao Fan all for the Xiao family? If that's the case, do you dare to challenge Xiao Fan before his martial soul is destroyed?" Xiaozhen's eyes were burning, staring at Xiao Lin coldly, with a look of disappointment in his eyes. Xiao Lin's tone paused for a moment. Xiaozhen is right, he is indeed for the Xiao family, but he also has his own selfish intentions. Before Xiao Fan's martial soul was destroyed, he could never have been his opponent. Although there was only one level difference between the 8th level and 9th level martial souls, there was still a huge gap. Before Xiao Fan's martial soul was destroyed, you dared not challenge him, but now you want to challenge him. This is not taking advantage of someone's danger, what is it? You can want to win, but you must win with integrity. Our Xiao family will never allow any villains to take advantage of someone's danger. Xiao Lin, did you forget that when you opened the 8th orifice, who found the spiritual pill for you to help you open it? Did you forget that when you were practicing the Black Evil Blade, who guided you and accompanied you to practice for 7 days, making your Black Evil Blade a great success? It's Xiao Fan, it's my real dragon from the Xiao family. Even if his martial soul is destroyed now, it is not something you can lightly humiliate. Today, I just want to tell you that there is no one to replace Xiao Fan's position as the crown prince. Xiao Zheni spoke with a solemn tone, his beard and hair all parted. His sharp gaze swept over Xiao Lin and numerous elders, like a awakened lion. Chapter 6. Zhang's War Letters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I was wrong. Xiao Lin's face turned green and red, and in the end, it was full of shame. He gave himself a hard slap. Pop. A crisp voice rang out, and Xiao Zhen's words completely woke him up. Xiao Lin remembered the help that Xiao Fan had given him, as well as the glory that Xiao Fan brought as the real dragon of the Xiao family. Perhaps it was jealousy, or the temptation of power that made him tempted by greed, coupled with the feeling that his grandfather had acquiesced to his behavior, that led him to do such a despicable thing. Xiao Fan is the crown prince of the Demon Suppression King and the true dragon of the Xiao family. This will never change, and no one can replace him. Xiao Zhen said slowly, looking directly at Xiao Fan, with a hint of encouragement in his eyes. At this moment, second elder, third elder, and others were all looking at Xiao Zhen with incredible eyes. They originally thought that Xiao Zhen held a council of elders to replace Xiao Fan with Xiao Lin and become the crown prince of the Xiao family, but now it seems that this is not the case. Xiao Zhen surprisingly stood firmly on Xiao Fan's side. This left second elder and third elder and others feeling a bit unresponsive for a while. Xiao Fan also took a deep look at the elder, and a warm current surged in his heart. He misread. Although the elder is dignified and stern, and does not speak or smile, as the elder of the Xiao family, he has no selfish intentions and only considers the Xiao family. Xiao Fan, the prince of the demon-suppressing king and the true dragon of the Xiao family, even though his martial soul was destroyed and he was defeated with a single move, he carried many curses, but the Xiao family still did not give up on him. How could this not move him? What do you think I'm doing? I'm not for Xiao Fan, I'm for the entire Xiao family. Mainly because Xiao Lin is not a good weapon. If he dares to challenge Xiao Fan during his heyday and win, I will naturally support him. Xiao Zhen saw the astonished eyes of everyone and said with a stern expression. Ha ha ha. Big brother, we used to blame you wrong. You're right, Xiao Fan is the crown prince of my Xiao family. But in the Yuan Huang duel 3 months later, have you figured out what to do? The second elder laughed and said, Old Huai is very comforted, even calling the eldest elder big brother. Speaking of which, since the second elder believed that the eldest elder held great power and threatened the clan leader Xiao Ling, he has never called Xiao Zhen big brother again. With this big brother's voice, it seems that all the divisions and barriers that have arisen over the years have dissipated. That's right. The Yuan Huang duel is related to the control of the demon-suppressing army, and more importantly, to the survival of our Xiao family. We can only win, not lose. The 3 elders also spoke in a low voice. The other elders also nodded in agreement, their eyes full of worry. What are you afraid of? Soldiers will stop you, but the water will cover the earth. In the next few months, train these boys well, and strive for their strength, and then go further. Xiao Zhen said arrogantly. However, even if he said so, Xiao Fan felt a hint of concern in his eyes. Big brother is right. Next month, the Purple Spirit Lake will open. These kids will enter the Purple Spirit Lake for cultivation, and they will definitely be able to go further. Xiao Lin and Xiao Jian have the most hope of opening up the Spirit Sea and stepping into the Spirit Sea realm. The second elder nodded and said. Don't worry, elders. In 3 months' time, I will participate in the Yuan Huang duel. I will definitely be able to defeat the Crown Prince of Yuan. Xiao Fan said seriously. He is considering whether to reveal the matter of his martial soul recovery. Okay. Since the Crown Prince has such fighting spirit, we will naturally fully support him. When the Purple Spirit Lake opens, the Crown Prince will take these kids with him to practice well. The elder and others all smiled calmly. However, it is obvious that they did not take Xiao Fan's words to heart, and saying so is only a comforting language. After all, Xiao Fan's martial soul has been destroyed, and it is too difficult to recover. Whether the path of martial arts can continue is still uncertain. That Crown Prince of Yuan is already a cultivator in the Linghai realm, and the gap between Xiao Fan and him is too big. Report. At this moment, a hurried sound sounded. A burly guard in a black robe walked in, with a worried expression in his eyes. What's going on? The elder's face darkened and he asked coldly. I would like to inform all the elders that the Zhang family has arrived, and they are threatening to launch a spirit-grabbing battle. The black-robed guard, sweating profusely, said in great fear. What? Soul-snatching battle? Is the Zhang family crazy? How dare they? Many elders suddenly stood up, changed their colors, and their eyes were filled with a look of surprise and anger. The so-called spirit-grabbing battle is a battle for the spiritual land of cultivation. The spiritual realm of cultivation is a treasure land nurtured by heaven and earth, with rich spiritual energy in various mysteries that can greatly increase one's cultivation. The Purple Spirit Lake owned by the Xiao family is a spiritual land for cultivation. The Zhang family launched a battle to seize the Purple Spirit Lake of the Xiao family. Purple Spirit Lake is the lifeblood of my Xiao family, and no one is allowed to covet it. The Zhang family and others are looking for death. Let's go meet them and see who gave them the courage. The elder exclaimed angrily, his eyes filled with a fierce intent to kill. The battle to seize the spirit. Is it? The instruction of Yunfei and Xia Yang. Xiao Fan's heart also moved, his eyes icy cold. The Zhang family had long defected to the royal family of Dian. At this time, they launched a spirit-snatching battle, which made Xiao Fan smell a hint of conspiracy. The Purple Spirit Lake of the Xiao family is opened once a year and allows one to enter for a month of cultivation. In the Purple Spirit Lake, there is the essence of the Purple Spirit, which is incredibly pure. If one cultivates in the Purple Spirit Lake for a month, it is comparable to a year of external cultivation. This year's Purple Spirit Lake will open in just over 10 days. At this time, the Zhang family launched the soul-seizing war, clearly indicating that they did not want the people of the Xiao family to enter the Purple Spirit Lake for cultivation. Thinking back to the Yuan Huang duel 3 months later, a cold expression appeared in Xiao Fan's eyes. It seems that the Zhang family launched the soul-seizing war to confront Yuan Huang. Xiao Fan's heart was filled with killing intent. The Yun family, as well as the royal family of Dian, bully others too much. Chapter 7. Soul-seizing battle. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xiao family, performing in the martial arts arena. Elder De and Xiao Fan arrived here and immediately saw the Zhang family and their group. The Zhang family is led by Zhang Kuan, the eldest elder of the Zhang family, and Zhang Long, the second young master of the Zhang family. Zhang Long put on his brocade robe, his face cold and proud. When he saw Xiao Fan, a hint of mockery appeared at the corner of his mouth. He smiled arrogantly and said, "Today, on behalf of the Zhang family, I am coming to launch a spirit-grabbing battle against the Xiao family. Your Xiao family's Purple Spirit Lake, our Zhang family wants it." Speech is arrogant and domineering. Zhang Long, you're too arrogant. Do you also deserve my Xiao family's Purple Spirit Lake? Xiao Lin couldn't help but exclaim in anger. It's not up to you to decide whether you deserve it or not. It's the tradition of the state of Yen to fight for the spirit. You can't refuse it. If you refuse, Xiling Lake will automatically belong to our Zhang family. Zhang Long sneered coldly. Elder Xiaozhen stared at Zhang Long and Zhang Kuan in front of him, suppressing his anger and saying in a deep voice, "If your Zhang family dares to launch a soul-seizing war, my Xiao family will naturally accompany you to the end. However, do you really want to fight against my Xiao family endlessly?" Elder Xiao is serious. Cultivating spiritual realm requires those who are capable to reside in it. This is the iron law of the great Yen Taizu. The Purple Spirit Lake of the Xiao family was also taken from someone else's hands, right? My Zhang family naturally has the right to launch a spirit-taking battle. Zhang Kuan, the eldest elder of the Zhang family, is a chubby and smiling man with a twinkling in his small eyes, a lively and smiling tiger face. Very good. Soul-snatching battle, my Xiao family has taken over. Are you ready with equivalent items? Xiao Zhen said coldly. Nature is ready. We still understand the rules of the spirit-seizing war. My Zhang family has prepared the Thunder Spirit Waterfall, and as long as you win the spirit-seizing war, the Thunder Spirit Waterfall will be yours. Zhang Kuan said with a smile. Lei Ling Waterfall. Your Zhang family has really invested a lot of money. Xiao Zhan's eyes turned cold and he sneered. Lei Ling Waterfall is also the only spiritual cultivation land of the Zhang family. The Zhang family took out all the Thunder Spirit Waterfall, clearly full of confidence in the spirit-grabbing battle and determined to win it. The Thunder Spirit Waterfall of the Zhang family contains the aura of Thunder Spirit. It not only refines the body and expands muscles, but also has great benefits in opening up the spiritual sea, no less than Purple Spirit Lake. Over the years, the reason why the Zhang family has been able to constantly compete with the Xiao family in the northern wasteland is that they have relied on the spiritual land of Lei Ling Waterfall for cultivation. Elder Xiao, it's better to collide with the sun when choosing a day. The battle to seize the spirit will be scheduled after 10 days. How about that? Zhang Kuan said with a smile. Impossible. The rules of the soul-seizing war are for us to decide the time and place. I think the time should be set in 3 months' time. Xiao Zhan said coldly. He immediately understood that the Zhang family was coming towards Xiling Lake, because more than 10 days later, Xiling Lake would open. The Zhang family wants to hold a spirit-grabbing battle in 10 days, clearly to prevent the Xiao family from opening the Purple Spirit Lake and entering it for cultivation. Why is the heart so malicious? Elder Xiao, although it is up to you to decide the time and place of the soul-seizing war, in my opinion, delaying time is meaningless. How about deciding the winner as soon as possible? If you don't agree, don't blame us for not showing mercy and directly trapping the Purple Spirit Lake with the formation on the day it opens. Zhang Kuan smiled calmly and said. Do you dare to threaten me? Xiao Zhan's gaze turned cold. What Zhang Kuan means is that if they don't agree to a spirit-grabbing battle in 10 days, they will directly trap Purple Spirit Lake with a formation. You should know that the Zhang family has a 3rd-rank array mage. Even if it's a threat. What's the situation of your Xiao family now? Don't you know it yourself? Purple Spirit Lake, this spiritual cultivation land, is not something you can have. Zhang Kuan sneered and said. That's right. Xiao Fan, that useless person, dares to invade Yunfeishue. He's such a toad who wants to eat swan meat and doesn't know how to live or die. Now not only is his martial soul destroyed, he has become useless, but he has also been divorced by the Yun family, becoming a laughingstock of the great Yan kingdom. To be honest, if you hand over the Purple Spirit Lake obediently, the Xiao family will still be alive. Otherwise, not only will you be unable to keep the Purple Spirit Lake, but the Xiao family will also not be able to survive for a long time. Zhang Long sneered coldly. They actually tore their faces apart directly. Just rely on your Zhang family and also want to destroy my Xiao family. If we want to go to war, my Xiao family will accompany us to the end. The elder was extremely angry and smiled. At this moment, he was also completely angered. The Xiao family of the Demon King's mansion in Tangtang Town has made great contributions to the Yan state, and has made outstanding contributions. Not only have they been suppressed by the royal family and bullied by the Yun family, but now even a small Zhang family dares not take the Xiao family seriously. Moreover, everyone in the Xiao family is well aware that the Zhang family is a dog of the Yun family, and the reason for launching the soul-seizing war is probably due to the command of the Yun family. To be honest with you, my Zhang family has already received the imperial decree from the king. The soul-seizing war will begin 10 days later. Do you, the Xiao family, dare to disobey the decree? Zhang Long sneered and threw a heavy bomb. What? The edict. Everyone in the Xiao family had an extremely pale complexion. The royal family of Dian, are you preparing to take action against the Xiao family? Why? What exactly is it? If it weren't for the protection of our Xiao family back then, the Yun family would have been exterminated long ago. It's not enough to harm our crown prince. Now we still have to deal with our Xiao family. It's really heartless and ungrateful. Xiao Zhen seemed to have aged a lot in an instant, with a look of sadness and anger in his eyes. Why? Blame that useless Xiao Fan. What kind of heavenly pride is Yun Feishuo? She awakened her heavenly level martial soul and was adopted as a disciple by a prominent figure of the heavenly demon sect, becoming a true disciple of the sect. Xiao Fan, that toad, is also worthy of marrying her. But Xiao Fan was actually insane and intended to invade Yun Feishuo. He deserved to die for his crimes. If you want to blame that useless person Xiao Fan. In this world, the strong are respected. Your Xiao family is too weak to keep Purple Spirit Lake, and who can be blamed? Zhang Long sneered, full of disdain. 10 days from now, will we engage in a spirit-grabbing battle? My Xiao family has agreed. At this moment, Xiao Fan said lightly. Xiao Fan, you didn't die yet. However, your martial soul has been destroyed, and you have become a complete waste. After the battle to seize the spirit, the Purple Spirit Lake belongs to my Zhang family. This is the result of offending the disciples of the Holy Land. Zhang Long sneered, his eyes full of disdain. What are you, worthy to talk to me? Before I entered Xuanwu Academy, did you forget the way I bowed and bowed? Even a dog-like thing dared to speak wildly at the Xiao family's mouth. Xiao Fan glanced at Zhang Long and said coldly. Xiao Fan, you're looking for death. Zhang Long was furious, his face turning blue and white, and his expression became somewhat ferocious. Previously, Xiao Fan was the real dragon of the Xiao family, so he naturally was far inferior to Xiao Fan. Those memories mentioned by Xiao Fan made him feel a bit embarrassed and angry. Xiao Fan's martial soul has been destroyed, how dare he still look down on him? Chapter 8. Treasure Pavilion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dare to be impolite to my crown prince and bully me. There is no one in the Xiao family. The elder shouted angrily. A fierce momentum locked in Zhang Long. There's no need for Elder Xiao to get angry about the verbal disputes between the younger generation. Since the crown prince of your Xiao family has agreed, let's see the end of the soul-seizing war in 10 days. Zhang Kun chuckled and said, also emitting a powerful aura, blocking the elder. Wait a minute. At this moment, Xiao Fan stared at Zhang Kun and slowly said, in 10 days, we can start the soul-seizing war in advance, but our Xiao family has one condition. Please speak, Crown Prince. Zhang Qinyan measured and said. In 10 days' time, the battle to seize the spirit. If my Xiao family wins, besides the Thunder Spirit Waterfall, your Zhang family's third-grade formation, the small 5-element sword formation, will also belong to my Xiao family. Do you dare? Xiao Fan said calmly. The formation diagram of the little 5-element sword. You are simply delusional. Xiao Fan, how dare you bargain with my Zhang family just because of you, a notorious waste. Zhang Long was furious, full of a look of unkindness. The formation diagram of the Zhang family's little 5-element sword is the treasure of the Zhang family's clan. It is precisely with the formation diagram of the little 5-element sword that they are able to cultivate third-grade formation mages. You should know that the strength of the third-rank formation mage is extremely terrifying. After the formation is deployed, even the strong ones of several Dao basic realms will be killed by it. Even in the capital, the third-rank mage is a remarkable figure. To become a third-rank mage, one must have a third-rank formation diagram, such as the small 5-element sword formation diagram, which has a significant impact on the Zhang family. Either agree or go to war. Although our demon-suppressing prince's mansion is not at its peak now, it is not something that can be lightly humiliated by any cat or dog. It's not a big deal, let's kill the fish and break the net. Xiao Fan said lightly. Although his voice was plain, it had an iron-blooded killing intent, which made Zhang Long, Zhang Kuan, and others couldn't help but change their faces. The reason why the Zhang family dares to be enemies with the Xiao family is because there is covert support from the royal family of Dian, but it does not mean that the Zhang family can compete with the Xiao family. Zhang Kuan's gaze changed in his eyes, and he finally nodded and said, "Sure, my Zhang family has agreed." The formation diagram of the little five-elements sword, although it is the treasure of the Zhang family's clan. But at this moment, weighing the pros and cons, they could only grit their teeth and agree. "Xiao Fan, you notorious waste who was expelled from Xuanwu Academy, how dare you covet my Zhang family's formation? You really don't know whether to live or die. You will definitely lose the soul-seizing war." Zhang Long sneered. "Although I don't know who gave you so much confidence, the Zhang family has been a dog for a long time, as if they are very proud of it." Xiao Fan said lightly. "Xiao Fan, if you have the guts, I will participate in the soul-seizing war in 10 days and personally kill you." Zhang Long was furious and his eyes were gloomy. "It doesn't take 10 days, believe it or not, I can kill you now." Xiao Fan raised his head and stared at Zhang Long seriously, saying, "Just you?" "Ha ha ha." Zhang Long laughed heartily, his smile wild and disdainful. "Xiao Fan, if you had level 9 martial souls before, I might not be your opponent. But now, you're just a useless person. How dare you shout in front of me? You can give it a try." Xiao Fan remained calm despite not getting angry. "Xiao Fan, I'll take a look. 10 days later, if your Xiao family loses Purple Spirit Lake, will you still be so stubborn?" Zhang Long sneered and said, although he had the intention to attack Xiao Fan, he temporarily calmed his mind as he looked at Xiao Zhen and others watching closely beside him. Then, Zhang Long and others left the Xiao family with great arrogance. Xiao Zhen and others all had extremely pale faces, and their eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. The Zhang family, they are simply deceiving others too much. Don't worry, Crown Prince. In 10 days, I will teach Zhang Long a good lesson and vent my anger for you. Xiao Lin gritted his teeth and said. Thank you very much. Xiao Fan patted Xiao Lin's shoulder and said. There was a hint of sharpness in his eyes. Now that he has regained his divine sword martial soul, he naturally wants to personally participate in the soul-seizing war and defeat Zhang Long on top of it. I won't mention the matter of restoring the martial soul for now, so as not to prepare the Zhang family. Xiao Fan thought to himself. He originally intended to tell Xiao Zhen and others that his martial soul had been restored. But as the spirit-seizing war approaches, if the news leaks out, the Zhang family will definitely be prepared. When the spirit-seizing war breaks out, Xiao Fan really wants to see what kind of expression the Zhang family will have when his martial soul is revealed. Crown Prince, you don't have to worry. Go back and rest well. We are here in the soul-seizing war. Xiao Zhen said solemnly to Xiao Fan. He took Xiao Fan's words about participating in the soul-seizing war as a joke and didn't pay attention. After all, Xiao Fan's martial soul has been destroyed, and the path of martial arts has been cut off. It is impossible for him to be Zhang Long's opponent now. How can he participate in the soul-seizing war? Okay. Xiao Fan nodded and said. He turned around and left. The Crown Prince is a genius in heaven. If his martial soul is not destroyed, he must be the true dragon of our Xiao family. How jealous of talented people. What makes you jealous of talents? It's all caused by that slut Yunfeishue. I wish I could kill that slut and avenge the Crown Prince. The martial soul has been destroyed, and the path of martial arts has been cut off. The heavenly and earthly treasures that want to revive the martial soul are all legendary divine objects. Our Xiao family doesn't have them at all, and we don't know when the clan leader will leave the level. Perhaps the clan leader has a solution, right? Everyone looked at Xiao Fan's departing figure, with a look of regret and indignation in their eyes. Treasure building. This is the important place of the Xiao family and also the place of heritage inheritance. It is strictly guarded on weekdays and is not allowed to enter. There are 3 attics in total, one is Baoga, one is Jianga, and the other is Wuga. In the treasure pavilion, there are various heavenly and earthly treasures, as well as miraculous medicines. In the sword pavilion, there are various imported divine weapons and sharp weapons, which are called the sword pavilion because most of the Xiao family are skilled in using spiritual swords. In the martial arts pavilion, there are various martial arts techniques and techniques. Xiao Fan first went to the treasure pavilion and took 2 bottles of the first-grade spiritual pill, the blood-tonifying pill and the quenching spirit pill, which can greatly nourish qi and blood, refine spiritual energy, and are the spiritual pills he currently needs the most. The spiritual pill taken by Qingyu to Xiao Fan repaired his entire meridians, which was extremely extraordinary. However, he still needed the elixir to replenish qi and blood and refine spiritual energy. Then, he arrived at the sword pavilion. In the sword pavilion, there are many spiritual swords collected, but my swallowing heaven sword scripture, I don't know how many spiritual weapons need to be devoured. Anyway, let's try more spiritual swords. Xiao Fan thought to himself. Entering the sword pavilion, there is a strong and solemn aura, with spiritual light and sword aura permeating. Various weapons are placed on the shelves in all directions. Most of them are spirit swords. Weapons are divided into spiritual weapons, treasures, and sacred weapons. The 9th grade spirit weapon, among which the most powerful of the Xiao family is the 9th grade spirit weapon, the Liang sword, which was also the weapon of the first generation of the demon-suppressing king, with unparalleled power. As for spiritual weapons, they have transcended the realm of spiritual weapons and can be stored within the body. They are as small as desired and possess various unpredictable divine powers, which are not found in the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. Perhaps only the royal family of the Great Yen have them. 1st grade spiritual weapon, sharp golden sword. 2nd grade spiritual weapon, Qingfeng sword. 3rd grade spiritual weapon, Xianling sword. 6th grade spiritual weapon, heavy mountain sword. Xiao Fan's gaze swept over the spiritual weapons in front of him, and he could feel that the stronger the spiritual weapons, the stronger their spirituality. Among the sword pavilion, there are the most spiritual weapons below the 3rd grade, and very few spiritual weapons above the 7th grade. The sum of 7th grade and 8th grade spiritual weapons is only 9. This has been the foundation of the Xiao family for so many years. With the authority of my demon-suppressing prince, I can only use spiritual weapons below 7th grade. However, I have just practiced the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic and cannot use 2 strong spiritual weapons. Xiao Fan secretly thought to himself that he would simply take one of the 1st to 6th grade spiritual swords, totaling 6 spiritual swords. Then, Xiao Fan left the sword pavilion. If it were someone else who dared to use so many spiritual weapons at once, they would have been captured by the guards of the sword pavilion long ago. However, after seeing that it was Xiao Fan, the guards of the sword pavilion only registered and didn't ask any more questions, so they let Xiao Fan leave. Chapter 9. 9 Calamity Sword Fingers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Gu. Here are various martial arts and techniques of the Xiao family stored. Xiao Fan is preparing to search for some martial arts skills to enhance his strength, so that he can prepare for the upcoming spirit-grabbing battle, even the Yuan Huang duel. I already have the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic, so I don't need it for the time being. The cultivation in the Enlightenment realm can only cultivate martial arts below the 4th level. Xiao Fan's gaze twitched slightly, focusing on those 3rd-level martial arts skills. The 3rd grade martial arts skill is already the strongest martial arts skill he can cultivate today. 3rd grade martial arts, Qingfeng sword technique. 3rd grade martial arts skills, magic silver hands. 3rd grade martial arts skills, golden bell shield. The Xiao family has hundreds of third-grade martial arts, which is also the foundation of the demon-suppressing prince's mansion. Xiao Fan now has the shadowless step and the spirit rhinoceros sword, and he is preparing to seek an explosive and powerful martial arts skill. However, after looking around, he was clearly not satisfied. Those third-level martial arts skills, even if practiced to the extreme, may not necessarily be comparable to Lingxi sword qi. Ordinary martial arts skills, Xiao Fan doesn't even appreciate them. Are you just giving up like this? Hey, is this? At this moment, Xiao Fan's gaze fell on a yellowed secret book. 9 Calamity Sword Fingers. Is this a martial arts residual chapter? Xiao Fan's eyes showed a hint of curiosity. He picked up his 9 Calamity Sword Finger, opened it and looked carefully. After a moment, Xiao Fan frowned slightly and showed a hint of shock. 9 Calamity Sword Fingers, there are only 3 moves in total, but the third move has been lost. The first move is equivalent to a third-level martial arts skill, and if the second move is completed, it is equivalent to a 6th-level martial arts skill. These 9 Calamity Sword Fingers are just fragments, so extraordinary. If they were complete, wouldn't they be comparable to 9th-grade martial arts skills? You should know that the entire Xiao family only has one 9th-grade martial arts skill. Jiujia Sword Finger, using the finger as the sword, unleashes sword energy with unparalleled power, piercing through everything. This first move, called the normalization move, requires at least the opening of the 9 orifices to cultivate, and requires the possession of a sword martial soul. It compresses the spiritual energy within the 9 orifices into a sword energy, which is stored in the body. Once triggered, it will shatter the heavens. The power described far exceeds that of the Lingxi sword. Is there really a 10th opening in the realm of enlightenment? Xiao Fan's eyes showed a hint of shock. The first move of this 9 Calamity Sword Finger can be said to be a martial arts skill or a cultivation secret. It is said that in addition to the 9 orifices of the human body, there is also a hidden 10th orifices in the enlightenment realm. However, the 10th orifice is extremely difficult to open. Once the 10th orifice is opened, the physical body's divine treasure is opened, washing hair and marrow, undergoing rebirth, and the physical body returns to its innate state, possessing supreme divine power. However, the 10th orifice only exists in legends and has not been heard of anyone who can open it. And the first move of this 9 Calamity Sword Finger is not only to integrate the spiritual energy of the 9 orifices, form a sword energy, burst out and harm the enemy, but also to use this sword energy to attack the legendary 10th orifices. However, according to the 9 Calamity Sword Fingers, even if one completes the first move, it only adds some permission and opens up the 10th orifice, which is still not an easy task. The 10th orifice, also known as the Divine Orifice. The body of the divine treasure. Not to mention, whether it is possible to open the divine mind, the power of these 9 Calamity Sword Fingers alone is enough to instantly kill all warriors in the enlightenment realm. Xiao Fan's gaze was burning, revealing a hint of fiery radiance. Without any hesitation, he picked up his 9 Calamity Sword Fingers and left the martial pavilion. After returning to the other courtyard, Xiao Fan prepared to practice in seclusion. The top priority is for me to heal my injuries first, and then practice the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic. Xiao Fan's eyes showed a hint of anticipation. Xiao Fan took out the blood tonifying pill and swallowed it. The blood tonifying pill entered his abdomen and transformed into a thick and majestic energy, surging throughout his body, nourishing his flesh and making his qi and blood become increasingly vigorous. Half an hour later, after the energy of the blood tonifying pill was refined, he took another quenching spirit pill, which turned into pure spiritual energy and poured into the 9 orifices. In this way, Xiao Fan took a series of blood tonifying pills and spirit quenching pills. In less than a day, he felt that the depleted essence and blood in his body had been replenished, and the spiritual energy in his 9 orifices had become incredibly abundant. His whole body felt a strong sense of power. He punched and a sonic boom sounded. 9 orifices opened together, 10,000 pounds of divine power. Xiao Fan's eyes showed a hint of satisfaction as he whispered to himself, Yun Fei Shue, wait for me. It won't be long before I stand in front of you again and take back what I lost with my own hands. He suppressed his thoughts, regained his inner peace, and then prepared to start practicing the Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra. Swallowing the Heavenly Sword Sutra, after reaching its peak, using oneself as a sword, one sword can cut through heaven and earth, and destroy immortals and demons. Xiao Fan couldn't imagine what a realm it was. I'm afraid even the legendary martial arts Holy Land may not have such earth-shattering techniques. Using oneself as a sword, swallowing the heavens and the earth, heating the furnace with qi and blood, turning spiritual energy into fire, devouring sword elements, and unifying the Great Way. Xiao Fan followed the cultivation method of the Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra and placed a first-grade spiritual sword horizontally in front of his knee to activate the spirit of the divine sword, activate the spiritual energy in his body, and start devouring the spiritual sword. Buzz. As Xiao Fan operated the Swallowing Heavenly Sword Sutra, the soul of the divine sword trembled and buzzed, and a strange force spread out. Xiao Fan felt as if his entire body had transformed into a fierce divine sword. The first-grade spiritual sword in front of him was buzzing and trembling, as if he was worshipping the King of Swords, followed by a mysterious force enveloping the first-grade spiritual sword. In the first-grade spirit sword, there was a sharp sword light that was instantly devoured by Xiao Fan's physical body. That ray of sword light is the origin of the spirit sword, flowing along the meridians around Xiao Fan's body, penetrating his 9 major acupoints. Hiss. Xiao Fan felt a severe pain attacking him, as if he had been completely dismembered. The sharp sword light was about to tear open his entire meridians, causing Xiao Fan's face to contort in pain. However, Xiao Fan still did not slack off at all, allowing the ray of sword light to wander through his meridians, penetrating the 9 major acupoints, and finally slowly merging into his body. This process lasted for an hour. Xiao Fan was already sweating profusely, and his clothes were soaked through. This Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra is too terrifying. Xiao Fan took a cold breath, but his eyes were filled with an extremely surprised expression. Devouring the essence of a first-grade spiritual sword, the first-grade spiritual sword has turned into scrap metal, with dim spiritual light and completely scrapped. But Xiao Fan felt that his 9 major acupoints had added a bit of sharpness, and his physical body had become stronger. On his skin, there seemed to be a faint sword light emerging. Boom! He punched out and the sound exploded. Swallowed a first-class spiritual sword, and surprisingly, my physical strength skyrocketed by 2,000 pounds. It's too strong. Xiao Fan was pleasantly surprised. He now feels more and more that if he really devours billions of divine swords, can his physical body become an earth-shattering supreme sword. This is forging the physical body as a divine sword. I don't know who created the Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra. Chapter 10. 9 Calamities Sword Chi, Abyss of Heaven and Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sword aura permeated the room, and the spiritual light flickered, interweaving sharp edges. Breathing and wheezing, the wisps of sword energy flowed into Xiao Fan's body like 100 rivers returning to the sea. He made a crackling sound all over his body, his muscles and bones trembled, and his body was constantly tempered by the sword energy, emitting a fierce aura. Quickly, Xiao Fan's forehead was covered in cold sweat, and the thick black substance on the surface of his body continued to enlarge, spraying thin white smoke all over his body, as if quenched by a sword, making him fully display his sharpness. It really hurts. Like a million insect phages. Xiao Fan gritted his teeth and felt an extreme pain all over his body. Devouring and refining a second-level spiritual sword, the sword energy became increasingly fierce, and the pain felt even stronger, almost making people go crazy. Although the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic is extremely rebellious, the immense pain of treating the physical body like a divine sword, undergoing countless trials and even bone-breaking and reshaping, is extremely terrifying and unbearable for ordinary people. Xiao Fan has been practicing hard since childhood, which can be considered as having a firm will, but he almost gritted his teeth before he managed to hold on. What is this pain? Strength, I need strong strength. Xiao Fan's face was a bit pale, but there was a hint of indomitable sharpness in his eyes. What is the physical pain compared to betrayal, shame, and physical pain? More importantly, practicing the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic gave Xiao Fan unimaginable strength. Breathing and wheezing after just taking a moment of rest, the Swallowing Heaven Sword scripture quickly began to operate again, like an invisible vortex, beginning to devour the sword element of the third-level spiritual weapon. The sword element of the third-grade spiritual weapon is even more violent and fierce, stimulating the body and meridians more strongly, and causing increased pain. Xiao Fan was trembling with pain and sweating profusely, still gritting his teeth and persevering. Until the early morning of the next day, Xiao Fan threw down the completely scrapped third-grade spiritual weapon, and his whole body seemed to be unsheathed like a divine sword. Even his eyes seemed to contain sword light, so fierce that he dared not look directly at him. The Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra is truly extraordinary. The immense pain during his cultivation not only did not cause any damage to his body, but also became full of qi and blood, and his body was as light as a swallow. Click. The fists clenched fiercely, as if they had burst the air. Boom. With a sweep of his fist, the void suddenly exploded and the waves of energy surged like a tide. This power has exceeded 20,000 pounds. After just a brief experiment, Xiao Fan's face suddenly showed a hint of surprise. The martial artist in the Enlightenment realm carries tens of thousands of pounds of divine power, which is already the limit. However, practicing the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic was just a small trial with a bull's sword, which doubled Xiao Fan's strength and completely broke the limit of the Enlightenment realm. The Swallowing Heaven Sword Sutra is mysterious, absorbing the power of 10,000 swords. If it is completed, my physical body may really be refined into a peerless divine sword. Xiao Fan sighed. However, when he takes out another fourth-level spiritual weapon and wants to continue improving. But it was found that the 9 orifices were full, the body was completely saturated, and all the absorbed sword elements had escaped, even risking bursting the body. It seems that without opening up the 10th trick, one cannot continue to improve. After a slight attempt, Xiao Fan had no choice but to give up. However, by practicing the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic, he had already broken his physical limits and established his foundation. The grasp of the 10th orifice will undoubtedly increase significantly. Jiujia Sword Finger. It's up to you. Xiao Fan is very interested in this mysterious and incomplete martial arts skill. The cultivation methods and techniques have already become familiar to the heart. I am now ready to try practicing. First, connect the 9 orifices. Xiao Fan lowered his heart and practiced according to the Dharma. The 9 major acupoints in his body were quickly activated. Buzzing, the 9 major acupoints lit up one after another, like stars, quickly connecting with each other. How could it be so smooth? Xiao Fan was somewhat surprised, not expecting to succeed on his first attempt. Later on, he realized that by practicing the Swallowing Heaven Sword Classic, he had broken the limits of his physical body. His control over power far exceeded that of martial artists in the Enlightenment realm, and could even be on par with experts in the Spirit Sea realm. Connecting the 9 major acupoints and cultivating the 9 Calamity sword fingers is even more efficient. Breathing and wheezing following closely, the majestic spiritual energy within the 9 orifices began to surge. Through the connection of meridians, wandering through the 9 major acupoints, forming a perfect cycle that flows endlessly. If you use the technique of inner vision, you can see that spiritual energy quickly wanders between the 9 major acupoints, gradually transforming into a mysterious vortex of spiritual energy within Xiao Fan's body. The majestic spiritual energy continuously converged, causing a dazzling divine light to burst out from the center of the vortex, as if something was about to break through and emerge. Qi whirlpool opens, sword qi condenses. With a loud shout from Xiao Fan, the center of the spiritual vortex suddenly broke open. Puff! A shining sword energy shattered nothingness and bloomed with unparalleled sharpness. Is this the 9 Calamities sword qi? A sharp sword energy appeared out of thin air in his body, which shocked and amazed Xiao Fan. However, this is not over yet. When the golden sword energy appeared, the spiritual energy in the 9 major acupoints seemed to have found the main bone, crazily converging and lingering around the golden sword energy, rapidly rotating. Breathing and wheezing, the speed of the spiritual vortex intensified, and the golden sword energy continued to grow, seeming to tear apart Xiao Fan's physical body. What's going on? Xiao Fan felt that his body had begun to lose control, and his whole body slowly floated up in the air. At the same time, strands of invisible airflow began to flow into his body from all directions, like rain and dew watering the dry earth. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Xiao Fan was overjoyed. The golden sword energy was too terrifying. It absorbed all the spiritual energy from the 9 major acupoints in his body, and even the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy was absorbed. As the spiritual energy around the golden sword energy gathered more and more, a huge sword energy vortex quickly formed, directly breaking through the body. Breathing and wheezing, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered more and more, gradually transforming into a white and misty airflow, rushing crazily into Xiao Fan's body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth has actually condensed into tangible substance. Xiao Fan was shocked, and the sword energy vortex that broke through his body had completely submerged his body at this moment. The bustling city of Beihuang suddenly quieted down, and people all looked up at the sky, standing still. The infinite spiritual energy of heaven and earth, like a storm converging over the northern wasteland city, gradually formed a huge blue vortex, and continued to grow. So much so that the people of the entire Beihuang city can see it clearly no matter where they stand. What is that? Countless people looked at the sky, dumbfounded. Click, click. As the whirlpool grew stronger and darker in color, it unexpectedly triggered 9 thunderbolts to continuously fall, causing panic throughout the city. Why is there such a terrifying celestial anomaly? Could it be that the heavens are angry and have brought down the heavenly punishment? God, calm down. We, the people of the northern wilderness, have always been devout, and we must increase our offerings and sacrifices in the future. God bless. Countless men, women, and children all knelt down, praying devoutly. At the same time, among various family forces such as the demon-suppressing prince's mansion and the Zhang family, there were skilled figures from the spirit sea realm soaring up to the sky and landing on the rooftops of the buildings, staring in shock at the celestial phenomena above the void.